Hello, welcome to the Women in Data Science series of the Shelley Show. This is episode number 8. So we're going quite quickly, and that's good. Okay, I'm Chandra, and you're watching the simulcast live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I hope you and your family are safe and getting through this COVID-19 scenario. Every fortnight, we bring to you the leading ladies of data science on this platform and put forward their understanding, their point of view of the data science world. So if you know anyone, any leading lady of data science, and want everyone on all the audience to hear from them, hear their point of view, then please mention their name in the comment section and I will contact them. If you have any question during this session, please write the question in the comment section and I will definitely take them. So let me not waste any time and quickly bring in the guest to you. My first guest is Kakul Paul, who has 15 plus years of experience in providing consultative strategic guidance to clients through a data-driven approach and in setting up high-performance offshore analytics center of excellence for delivering the same. She's been part of two successful startup ventures, MarketX and Market Intelligent, which was acquired by Brilio in 2014. She's currently working for Accenture, where she leads the global sales operations analytics portfolio. So let me bring Kakul in. Hi, Kakul. Welcome to the Shelley Show.
Hi, Shelley. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everyone from wherever they are joining us. Thank you, Shelley, for inviting me to this forum.
Good stuff. So give me a minute and I'll get other guests as well. My second guest is Vijaya Ghosh. Vijaya is a seasoned data and analytics solution leader with proven experience in ideation, design, strategy, development, and implementation of industry-leading solutions. With strong entrepreneurial ability, she has worked across startups and large organizations to lead competence-centered build-outs. She brings strong process orientation and excellent interpersonal and people management skills. Hold over 20 plus years of career experience in consulting, developing, and selling solutions to clients across CPG, retail, automotive, and manufacturing industry. Let me bring in Vijaya. Hi, Vijaya. Welcome to the Shelley Show.
Hello, thank you, Shelley. I'm very happy to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Look forward to discussing with the other friends that I have here. Thank you for inviting me.
Welcome to the Shelley Show. How are you feeling today?
Absolutely great. Look forward.
Good stuff. Okay. Guys, for you to view this episode and other sessions that are run on Emerging Technologies, I would request you to follow me so that you can be alerted when the live session is on. This gives you an opportunity to ask the questions on the list. So please press the follow button on LinkedIn, the subscribe button on YouTube, and the follow button on Twitter, wherever you're watching. And finally, we have, last but not the least, we have Naqvi, a strategy and analytics partner with over 7 years of successful experience in strategic planning and data analytics. She's passionate about driving end solutions and let's ask her about this. So let me bring in Sarah. Hello, Sarah. Welcome to the show.
Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon. Glad to be here.
So what's this about feminism? You're passionate about feminism. Sorry, tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. When I say I'm passionate about feminism, I'm passionate about getting more women to work, supporting them wherever they are, providing them with the initiatives or opportunities that they need. And it's not just professional, it could be their personal lives as well.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, so let's quickly get into the mission of understanding data science from your point of view. So we'll be talking about processes, skills, and success stories. So let's start with the process. When I started my career around about 25, 26 years ago, the data science, as it is called today, the processes were very hit and trial. What do you guys see today? Is it still hit and trial and you're trying to achieve a goal by taking the data and trying to find out something? How is it today? So let's start with Vijaya. Vidya?
Shelley, so data science by nature will remain iterative in nature. I mean, that is the way it is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you analyze the data and look for insights in that. So that I don't think will change. I mean, as a process. But what has changed from the time I started, say in 2005? We used to look more at, like, for example, I was in CPG marketing. So, I mean, we were looking at insights largely related to marketing data and providing guidance to brand managers and the like. So, therefore, we were looking more at a smaller universe of data, I would say. We were looking more from the perspective of looking at largely survey data or scanner data. This is the kind of world we were looking at those days. So in that sense, it was highly statistical in nature because we had less data and we were looking at a representative sample, which will then be and the analysis that we give from there is something that had to hold true for the universe. But
Yeah.
now I think what has changed absolutely is the sheer amount of data that we have. I mean, in terms of the whole big data stuff like variety, velocity, volume, etc. So now we understand, like from a marketing point, if I stand from a standpoint, if I relate to again, we understand the consumers much better. We have their digital footprint, we have their analysis coming through, their feedback coming through social media and the likes. So I would say what has changed is the sheer amount of data that we have. The analysis, though, remains the same. I mean, it depends on what we are looking for, but it has become more structured. We know a lot more than we knew those days, and we are therefore able to be more structured, more faster. I mean, since we are able, I mean, the technology enables us, we are able to get the insights faster. That's what I would say which has changed from the process standpoint.
Okay. Kakul, what do you think? Unmute yourself, Kakul. Okay.
So I think a lot obviously has changed in the last decade or two, right? But I still feel that there is still a long way to go in terms of establishing or bringing in some more processes. The three that typically come top of my mind. One is analytics needs to be like a separate pillar within the organization. While a lot of organizations are kind of going that way, I still see some, in fact, big organizations still having them as embedded as smaller teams, right? Now, what that means is that there is a deterrent in terms of really bringing in that kind of adoption, right? So the top level support is not there. Analytics need to be embedded deep, not just to validate hypothesis or to provide passive reporting, but it's really to shake up and drive a change, question your traditional mindset and thinking. And from my experience, and it might be a revelation, but there are still a lot of major corporates who are probably still not there as yet. And I think we will possibly take a few more years to kind of get there. And obviously, with that comes the second one, which is a lot of responsibility on the data side, right? With the data and the analytics team, data is the fuel, right? And hence the quality becomes extremely important, right? If you are asking the organization to give you the power, right? You need to kind of make sure that you're shouldering that responsibility the right way, right? That saying goes that you torture data and it'll confess to anything that you wanted to say, right? You obviously don't want to be getting there, right? Because then that's not what you want, or what's the foundation that you're setting up, right? So that's the second pillar, which I still feel that I think we're kind of getting there. We have a lot of data engineers now stepping up as part of data analytics team, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about when we get to the skill section. But that's where the essence becomes important. And the third one is the critical thinking or the design thinking, right? Where we bring in, the industry experts, the SMEs to help paint the canvas. Even now we see that, when we talk about solution development, we quickly jump into, because, the timelines are so short. We've been asked to kind of quickly go into deployment mode, development mode. But we forget the part that this whole bit of requirement gathering, literally like architecting the solution. It is so important. If you go wrong over there, you're not really thinking who your end consumers are, how will they be adopting it, and the adoption kind of sees us hit over there. So I think these three processes to me are extremely important, and I still feel that we have a bit to go kind of in terms of bringing some more maturity on that, but we still have come a long way, I would say, from the last 20 years or so.
Sure. One thing that comes to mind is starting from defining the outcome that you want to achieve from a business standpoint. Then, quickly jumping into what data you've got, to what models you want to put in, and what is the output that you're going to get. Is there a kind of a standard process that you've seen that has come into play and people are owning that and taking that into going from an Accenture point of view?
Yes, of course. I think, and it's not just Accenture, but a lot of other service companies also. The very first thing is that you structure yourself by industry verticals, and that kind of brings in the fact that the industry knowledge that you bring, you first harness that when you are kind of blueprinting a solution, you bring that together, right? And then, of course, your data engineers and your data scientists, right? They kind of help bring that to reality. So I think that part is there, and then you also kind of driving these design thinking, not just in the solutioning part, but also in terms of how the coders work, right? How efficient are your models? How scalable are they? Or how adaptable are they? Are they only going to work in the utility sector? Can they also be used to kind of work in an oil and gas sector or some other sector for that matter, right? So that's where I think a lot of coaching right now is coming into play in terms of giving design thinking point of view, critical thinking point of view across, whether it's a data scientist, a data engineer, or an industry expert. So definitely, I think Accenture kind of takes that quite seriously, and we have a lot of innovation workshops being carried out to kind of drive that thinking through.
Okay. So now what do you see in terms of processes?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the points that were brought up so far. And I feel while some of the processes and reporting form a base for any data science, any creative thinking, analytics to be done on top of it, we definitely have a certain pace to these things now, which was probably not there, I guess, 10 years back. This has come from the hit and trial, this has come from experience that our analytics and data scientists have gone through, and they know what's the best way to approach this. Uh, I feel there's still more to ask for in terms of how our end users or how our decision makers look at the information, look at the analytics that's being put forth. And I guess it it's something that I see happening in the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe have some data scientists at that decision making level, so in the senior management, in that leadership, which would be able to convey our message better. And yeah, that's what I feel.
Okay. So when you look at all these processes, and you guys, I think, have a lot of experience in this space, if you were to change one thing, or if I turn it around and say, is there a missing ingredient which actually, in the current approach that we've got people looking at, is there a missing ingredient that can actually change it and make a huge difference from what you're observing in the market at the moment? Is there something that is missing? And
I'll take this. I'll take this first time. I'm sure Kakul and Sana can definitely have that to it. What I missed is, I mean, we're seeing that trend, as Kakul was just mentioning. There is a unification of data science and data engineering which is happening. We are looking at the end state of how can we make the models or the analytics that we create. How can we make it easily consumable for our end users? At the end of the day, all the analytics that we create is for enabling decision making, better decision making, faster decision making. So if that is the case, how do we ensure that whatever we create is something that is adopted? And that is a gap that though it is closing in, as Kakul was mentioning, the adoption chasm that we have between creation and consumption of analytics, it is closing in. I mean, from the time I think a decade or two earlier, it was again very siloed. In that respect, I would differ that analytics should be a very important part of business day-to-day business decision making. And as Sana was rightly saying, if you have more top management from this field with the understanding of this field, it is going to narrow down. But that is where I think the gap is still there in terms of analytics being seen as something separate from a business thinking, which is where I think this has to come together, because at the end of the day, the decisions that you're making have to be a function of your knowledge as well as in terms of your data. So I think that is where I think I see a gap. I mean, it's just narrowing, as I said, but we need to bring that closer. And that is why the data science and data engineering should not remain as two distinct fields, but they should be unified, so that we are looking at the end goal of consumption being made easier, repeatable, institutionalized, operationalized, more effectively.
Okay.
Absolutely.
From your perspective, Sana, what do you think is missing, or a missing ingredient that would actually make a huge difference?
Um, yeah, I feel a missing ingredient here could be see, we have numerous tools and we have a multitude of experience from our data analysts, from the data scientists.
Mhm.
Uh, a certain thing that's missing in this entire exercise is uh, bringing multiple levels of information together at the same scale so
Mhm.
that a particular model or a particular approach could be more unified in itself. Now there's some challenges from how this data shapes up. That's one of the basic things, and maybe not a lot of solutions to answer to that. If one parameter has about 10 metrics, another is 5, yeah, it is what it is. Another concept is uh, making it uh, making it easier for the non-data scientists, or making it easier for someone from another field to be able to understand what we're trying to say. So bridging that gap between actual data science talking statistics to talking business. uh,
Mhm.
I feel that's something that sometimes is quite tricky. When we have a very unique solution, it takes time for others to understand the approach and understand what it means for them, unless we show them certain results.
Okay, that is there. So I think what you're saying is that the understanding of the business, or the business teams to understand what data science can do for them, is also important as we go. Kakul, what do you think?
No, absolutely, and I think this is what I was calling right at the very beginning. It's about the last mile adoption that it's important. That's important and critical, and I think that also kind of shapes up the future of analytics. Right, we've seen commoditization of IT happen in the last about 20-30 years, and commoditization of analytics is happening right now. We've clearly seen that happening in the visualization space, where from these very raw Excel files to these Cognos and all the platforms. So we have Power BI and Tableau kind of shaping, which is making it very easy and streamlined in terms of understanding data. I think we're now stepping to the next level where we have these plug and play self-service solutions, right, which are going to come. And the reason that these are needed is so that they give that user experience, right, versus delving too much into what is the backend data, because the end user doesn't need to know. And then you commoditize and you scale it up, so it's kind of taking to the next level. And what is left of your resources, then they're focusing on what's the next level, whether it's augmented reality or it's conversational analytics. So they're basically paving the path to the next level, right, versus kind of spending too much of time in terms of maintaining what is existing. So yes, commoditization is the way to the future, which obviously means that you need to have an extremely fine user experience so that the adoption is high.
Yeah, my other observation that I have seen in the market is, apart from commoditization, sorry, and also getting into the business aspect of it,
Of
the
course.
importance of people to understand the simple, or keep it simple for the business so that they can execute it, is very
Absolutely.
important as well. And I think that's the last mile thing you were explaining, Kakul, around how the business people can actually take the output and go and execute it, because if they don't understand it, they will not execute it. And that is
Absolutely.
important. Okay, perfect. So this is for the first time, I'm telling you, we have hit 100 people consecutively watching this show. So I'm really, really proud of you guys. I think people like you so much that there's so many people watching it at the minute. So guys, so many people watching. If you have a question for these ladies, these beautiful ladies, please put that in the comment section and I'll take that question. Until then, you'll have to live with my questions. So, next, let's talk about the skills. Now, I'll tell this is a big elephant in the room. Why? Because what I've seen is that lots of people who have done something with data have started calling them data scientists. Now, do you see the same thing in the market? What kind of skills do you see in the market, or what is the shortage of skills that you see in the market? Or if you want to define a data scientist by itself, the kind of skills you are looking for, I think that would be a good place to start. So, Kakul, should I start from you now?
Sure. So I think even before we narrow down in terms of the data scientist, the data engineer, I think it's important to understand who really constitutes this data science world, right? So we start from the people who understand the domain, the industry experts, and we have data engineers, we have business analysts, and we have data scientists. I think all of them are needed. This ecosystem is very important to make sure that the end product is exactly viable, and this is exactly what the user is looking for. What I keep talking about, and this is what I strongly believe, is that you signal for competency and not just skill as you're building up your data science practice. And why that is important is the last decade or two has seen so much of change. We had SAS that we were using as a tool, then we moved to R, Python, or we have Google BigQuery. I don't know what's coming up next, right? So it's constantly going to change, but we need coders who are malleable, who are flexible, who have this design thinking at their back, and they're saying that we are completely they're experimental, right? They're willing to kind of say that you want to try different technologies. When people come back and approach me, you know what, Kakul, I'm a Power BI resource, but I don't know Tableau. When I push them back, no, this is the visualization space. You need to be comfortable with all visualization tools, right? So competency, like I said, is number one. And the second one is design thinking, critical thinking, irrespective of where you are. You are a coder, but you need to be thinking, how do I make it extremely efficient, extremely small, scalable, right? Somebody can QA it. I think those are elements. Then you can get into details of tools and technologies because they will keep changing. They are not constant. But these two threads, I believe, are constant.
Okay. What do you think, Sana?
Yeah, I completely agree with Kakul, and I feel while the entire ecosystem is something that's really needed, what's at the center of it is our core data scientists and their ability to approach and scale up to a problem while providing a solution. So, while not everything could be a quick fix and everything could not be, let's use the previous solution and try and see how it fits here, we need people who can think, who can work around a unique business problem and be more efficient in the way they are coding, in the way they work around these projects. So what I'm trying to say is that the epicenter, the center of this entire ecosystem needs to be quite robust. And that is somewhere we struggle at times to find more and more people who can help us out solve these problems. At the other end, we do have consultants, we do have people who are good with business knowledge, who can convey the message, who can storyboard the analytic solutions that we're providing.
Okay. Vijaya, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Kakul and Sana put it really well. This is the triage that we're looking for, right? I mean, the ability to understand data, have the knowledge of data science, so how we define it, data engineering on how to institutionalize and operationalize it, and third is definitely the business knowledge of what is it that you're working for at the end of the day. I mean, what business outcomes are you trying to impact by your analysis? I think this triage is really something that we need to have in what we call data scientists today. And as Kakul and Sana took pains to clarify, tools and technologies they do not define data scientists. They don't. I mean, it is the competency, it is this ability to actually look at what is the business outcome that I want to impact with my data and know the data that I need for it, and what are the tools and techniques that I therefore need to use to reach that end goal of impacting the business outcome. I think that is how a data scientist needs to think. And whether you use a visualization tool or you use a modeling tool, it is irrespective. And whatever is the next big thing, right? I mean, things are becoming, from a technology standpoint, they're only there to make it more efficient. What you
Yep.
couldn't do a decade ago, now you can do it in minutes, in seconds. So that is where technology is an enabler, and it has to be seen only as that, and that is not defining you as a person, as a data scientist. That's what I feel.
Perfect. So what I'm hearing is that critical thinking is important, thinking outside of the box is important, and it's not about the technology, which is very very true. Because when I started the career, it was SAS, then it became R, now it's Python, and everyone talking about one thing or the other, and it is impactful, but it helps you to quickly or do something or take some time to do it. So that's the only difference. Rest depends on how you think, what you're trying to achieve, by the or the outcome that you're trying to achieve. Now, if I wanted to ask you a question, and if you were to advising the budding data scientist, what is important skill for becoming a data scientist? What skill do you think they should have, or you look for when you do interviews? Say, for example, a fresher who's come out of college wants to start working as a data scientist in your teams, and they apply. What kind of what do you look in them? Coding, or process driving, outcome, critical thinking, as you mentioned. So tell us about that. I'll start with Kakul.
Okay, so I think again if they're freshers, obviously I'm not expecting that they will be expert coders over here. I'll focus more on their logical thinking and how they're able to solve various logical problems, mathematical problems. What's their approach like, right? And the creativity in that approach, right? Because that will drive in terms of how their coding, etc., will look like. And the second one is in terms of the flexibility, right? What are they thinking of the landscape currently? How flexible are they to kind of change themselves in terms of suiting what the canvas will look like tomorrow? And the third one, which I see right now, is a little bit of a gap in the data science world, is the ability. I'm not expecting them to be true industry SMEs, but the ability and the quest, the desire to understand what is the logic, what is the reason, why am I doing it, how it is going to be used at the end. I'm not just developing a code. It's not like I know neural networks and I understand the details of it, but where am I going to use the neural networks for, right? So I think these 3-4 things, if we can kind of get a sense in terms of what exactly are the strengths of the individuals, I think this will help us identify the right candidate.
Okay. Vijaya?
Yeah, go the same. I mean, number one for me is curiosity. I mean, you need to be curious about what you're trying to solve. I mean, you need to, you may be a fresher, you've just done your engineering, but you need to be aware of the larger industry. Why are you using data science? What is the end objective? As I said, to me, it all starts and ends with the business outcomes, because that is what really drives, an analysis. I mean, the whole data science is geared towards that. So I think that curiosity is number one that I look for. Then, as Kakul was mentioning, versatility is very important. I mean, you can't be saying, look, I like coding and I want to do only this, and I want to do deep learning, I want to do, etc. But I cannot be flexible enough or versatile enough to, come down to doing a visualization. Because at the end of the day, the solution, you have to look what is the problem statement at hand and what are you trying to solve. It could be solved. If it could be solved through a visualization, then let's do that. If it requires an advanced analytics model or a machine learning model to solve it, then that's where you look at that. So I would look at that. I mean, rather than saying that, I am only a coder and I want to do only this, I will not do that. And I think flexibility, curiosity and flexibility, I think these are two very key things that I would look for. And of course, the third is learnability. I mean, you have to constantly learn. This is the nature of the beast. You have to constantly learn, because we are in this field. Technology is changing, tools and techniques are changing. We are learning more and more about things. So that is and by nature, we all have to learn. Sometimes for me, I find it very difficult to manage with all the things that are going on. But I think that is the most important thing for all of us at whatever levels in our career we are. So,
okay.
that's my advice.
Well, I would agree with you. When machines can learn, why can't humans?
Yeah, but machines, I think, are sometimes smarter than we are.
No. The reality is, we are in a field where we are building machine learning models. So when machines can learn, human on this other side who are actually building those machine learning models.
I would agree. I mean, you would argue that. Yeah, but I think somewhere, we are so we look for some time. I have to unlearn how I used to learn before. Frankly, I mean, I would say that that's been a big difference for me. I mean, since I come from I think most of us had a very structured learning that we did in school and colleges, and that's where the learning stopped. And then in the office, when you came into the job, you did a different kind of learning. But now it's very different, and now you have all this MOOCs, the online courses and everything, and there is so much that you can pick up. But that requires a special skill and ability to unlearn how you used to learn before and then learn the new way. So in that sense, I think I constantly learn from the youngsters. I mean, those who come today, they have done so many MOOCs apart from what they have done in college. I really envy them because I never used to do that. I mean, the syllabus was most that I could manage to actually ace in college. But now I think I'm very happy for the new generation, actually.
No, that's very well said. In fact, I would say one thing, that because, well, I studied in India, and the way we were taught and the way my children are being taught here in Australia, it's a very different way of learning. They're very structured. The structure is part of their lives. For us, we were very unstructured, to be honest, and that's one thing I really miss. But you know what? To be a data scientist, being unstructured is also very important, because if you're very structured, you will, if you keep on doing what you're doing, you'll keep on getting what you're getting. So you have to change that structure so that you can get something new, and that's what it is all about. Okay, let me get to Sana. Sana, so tell me about what you look for in a person when you're interviewing.
Oh God, I'm scared of interviews. So, yeah, that's what I feel. Yeah, so I think Kakul and Vijaya have covered it pretty well. When we're looking for skills, when we're talking to a new person, we don't expect them to be experts. We would try and talk their language to understand how they approach a problem. It could be any industry, it could be any technology. Again, that doesn't matter. If I want to talk about the core of it, while they've covered what the basics are, the core of it could be something that I like to say algorithm, which basically talks about logical thinking, right? These are the 10 steps that I'd like to follow, and how much they investigate within those 10. So let's say if you're looking at a business problem, what's their approach? How do they start? What's the first step? What are the questions they're asking? I just
Mhm,
add that.
mhm. Okay, that's good. I must say one thing. Today, LinkedIn looks quite quiet. Not seen many questions there, so not much activity. Though overall, we've got more than 75 people watching at the moment. So, guys, if you've got a question, put that in the comment section. I will take that question for you guys. Anything to do with data science, anything to do with women in data science, please put that there. And I have a question for you, these girls, on women in data science. Why do we find so less women in data science? Now, this is very, very important, because for me, I'm trying to find women for every show, every fortnight, and what I see is that there are few women in data science. What do you think? Why do you think there are less women, and what do you think we can do to actually improve that stat in terms of having less women? What do you think? I'll start with Sana.
Um, yeah, a difficult question. Uh, Few women in data science. I feel it's improving. I feel probably there are smaller sections where we do see a good number of women participating. However, I think uh, they need that support. That data science is it's not exactly a star in the sky that can't be achieved, and also a voice. So when they discuss, when they talk, probably they need more support and voice to talk through their solutions, talk through what they're thinking of, and get a support from a leader who can help them see it through.
Mhm. Okay. Kakul, what do you think?
I think it's got to do with we go back to our culture, the cultural roots, right? And I don't think so. Countries are very different. I mean, they may be at different stages, but I think culturally, women are they at least it's the perception. I would say it's perception, because that's not the reality. The perception is that they're very good when it comes to designing. So in the advertisement world, in the creative world, you have historically also seen that there are a lot of women over there, right? But when it comes to maths and science, I think the impetus and the push, right, has not been there in the past generations. Of course, things are changing, and I'm very happy to see that there are a lot more women coming in various of these fields like science and data science and all these other threads as well. But culture has to do with quite a bit in terms of what we have historically seen. Having said that, like I said, the trend is changing, and what we can do, I think, is about providing women the kind of platform. So we do see a lot of entry level women coming up, right? But as they move up the pyramid, right, a a lot of other family related things come into play, and they've been not able to kind of manage all of that. And hence you see as you go up, the pyramid becomes like literally narrow, right? So as organizations, there are a lot of policies being put in place in terms of kind of helping the woman come back, right? Making sure that they're a success when they come back, right? How do you make sure that that happens? That is one. And secondly is also kind of creating different forums for them. Per se, by nature, women are not as enterprising or as forthcoming, right? You put a man and a woman in the same place, right? A man will basically speak out his triumphs, his success stories with a lot more force and impetus, right? Versus a woman, she will do something, but she'll probably feel that it'll anyways get noticed, which is not the case, right? So how do you kind of coach and develop women? There are a lot of these sessions that organizations, some of them are already doing it, some of them are having them as part of as a learning plans. But personally, as a woman, I think that even if I don't have a structured thinking around it, at least these are at the back of my mind in terms of whenever I have women in my team, in terms of giving them that equal opportunity and making sure that I have sessions with them to let them know that they need to equally stand up and talk about what they have done. Right? They don't need to be given a chance. You don't wait for a chance. It's survival of the fittest.
Sure. Vijaya, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, women in tech in general, I wouldn't say only data science, right? I mean, women in tech in general is something that we need to give more impetus to. I think it has to start in the schools. And I think that is changing today. Coding is no longer seen as something which is very difficult. I mean, there are lots of good platforms like Scratch and all for children. So, I mean, I always look at the new generation, right? I mean, what is going to happen in 5 years or 6 years or 10 years? We are talking about what has happened in the past, but I think that is not relevant. We have to see what we can do to impact the future. And that I think I'm very happy to see a lot of things changing at the school level, which is actually encouraging more and more children to take more and more girls to actually opt for tech as a career. And in that, I'm sure data science would stand out, because see, this whole thing about it being a triage of understanding business and data and analytics together, or tools and techniques together, I think this is something that a lot of women naturally will be inclined to, and that's what you see among us also, right? And I think what we need to do is also expand our horizon. I mean, we don't have to go only to the statistics, look for our entry levels coming from statistics or econometrics background only. I think we have to expand that to look at people from multiple other backgrounds also looking at, maybe with business degrees, maybe with other tech degrees. I think that is where, if you're constantly looking only at the engineering pool or a tech pool, that is where we are going to actually fall short. So we have to bring in tech, economics, statistics, business, all these degrees put together, who actually will combine and then expand the funnel for data science. And then you will see more and more women opting for it. So I see the future is bright. We have to constantly work towards that, but that is the reason.
Yep. So,
and of course, other things that Kakul mentioned are equally relevant. I mean, we have to make it easy for women to continue in their careers. I mean, this is irrespective of data science or any others. I mean, the whole thing of how do we enable women who, and at different points in time as a society. So for more and more women to stay on in their careers and to reach the senior management and board levels, because there across the board we see a drop, and it's only few fields which have been able to enable that, but not all.
Okay, I must add one thing here. I think there is another problem which is around the components or the structure of a data scientist that we're looking for. For example, we're looking for someone who is good at data, who's good at statistics, and who's good at presenting as well. 3 different components. Now, if we, and I'm just, I was thinking when you were saying that, if we looked at the fact that there are not many statisticians available who are women, then the insights and taking that to the business, you could actually have a lot of women in that space. So because you can't find all 3 of them in one person, you will have to have these 3 skills differentiated out in an organization. And the way I understand from my work at Accenture, that the way we structure the teams, we have insight people, we have data people, we have statisticians. So if we looked at that, the insight team could be more women there. We could have more women who could actually interact with the business and make sure that the insights are translated very well to the business so that can be executed. That could be one place we could focus on directly. What do you think? Is there Is that what could work?
Oh, I think it has already worked. I mean, Kakul and I were together in one of in our earlier companies, Marketix,
Yeah.
where I think this was very well differentiated and done. We had domain consultants
Mhm.
who came from business backgrounds, and a lot of women as well in that team,
Mhm.
who actually directly interacted and spoke to the business. Then we have analysts, but I wouldn't actually say that analysts necessarily have to be men. Lot of we had a lot of analysts who were women as well, because there are a lot of women who love working with tools and techniques. So I don't think we should discount that. And then, but in terms of skill sets, yes, a person with business degree is more keen to actually have interactions and presentations which they want to do do more customer facing roles, so to speak. And then we have analysts who love working with data, who actually are more thrilled by the innovation that they are able to bring to solving the with the tools and techniques on the data side. And then there are statisticians. Again, I will not differentiate that there are many women who would aspire and ace at being statisticians. So statisticians who actually come with that knowledge of actually bringing in different techniques, expanding and really expanding the horizon there. But as a nature, so I wouldn't say that that is the reason to have more women, but I would say that that is the way that you can more efficiently run data science delivery, because that is where you spread out and let people work on their strengths rather than force them to learn what. I mean, of course, everybody has to understand. You have to be able to present yourself well, learn data. But what is the primary skill? If that is your core and that is your strength and you thrive there, why don't we encourage them to do that? So that is what my thinking is in this respect. And I would not here again to correct that I don't think it is between man and woman. It is just how you are as a person in terms of what you want to do. And I will not stereotype that to say that women can do it
Okay.
I think completely agree with you, Vijay, on this, right? I think it's more skill set based how you want to kind of segregate the pool, but it's got nothing to do with how you want to differentiate by man and woman. And I also like your point about how we are kind of driving it right from the start in schools and all of that places.
Good stuff. Okay, so I was just thinking about the way males approach a problem in data science and the way a female approaches a problem in a data science world. Is there any difference in those two, or is it still the same process that I need to follow? What have you seen? Have you, when you talk to people, you talk to a male consultant, a data science consultant, or a female data science consultant, do you see that there is a difference in their approach, or is it all the same? What do you think? Or have you not thought about that as well? That could be one answer.
Honestly, I have not seen a different in approach, and if ever I were to do that, I would literally cloud myself and say it's perception based versus otherwise. I don't think that there is really a style which is different. Just that from a DNA perspective, women tend to be a little bit more creative and bring the human aspect and those stuff. So which might lead to a slightly different solution, but I would say if there is anything else to it, I would say it's perception based. At least that's what would be my take on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
to an
I
extent. I would say, oh, sorry, Sana. Yeah, please go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Sana, you go. You've
Okay,
been
thank
quiet.
you. Um, I feel from an approach perspective or a solutions perspective, it's not. You look at these projects irrespective of who's sharing and who's presenting, and you're like, wow, that's an amazing concept. Uh, One field where I feel there is a slight difference is probably women try to be more thorough. So, for instance, me, I'd wait for 10 of the backend things or data sources to be 100% complete before I even try and attack the problem. And how a male counterpart, how men would probably target it differently. Start with what I have right now. I'll factor in whatever comes in the middle of it. So I think that's more of an approach. Yeah.
Okay. Vijay?
Yeah, I totally relate to that. I have seen that difference a lot of times as well. When I I have seen a lot of my women analysts. I mean, now that you asked this question and I think back, I have seen that, I don't have this data, but, we need to have this as well and that as well. So I think that is one thing. I mean, I think by nature, a little bit of perfectionism, which is there, of actually have you done everything before I actually present you with a result. I think that is one thing that I see, I think, very distinctly. And second thing, I also see a lot of intuition. Like, there are some times where, like, for example, you're doing a regression and then you say, okay, this, this variable was, especially feature engineering when you're doing, I see a lot of intuition coming from women. I mean, that is, again, maybe by nature. Again, as I said, it cannot be generalized, but I do see that, in feature engineering, I see a lot of women actually being able to say, can I create this variable? I think this will work. And, they are probably, and it just is faster, because EDA process in general is hit and trial, as you were saying, and it is an iterative process. But I think there, some bit of intuition from women, I think, does help. So I think if at all we have to think about it, I think these are two areas I can point out, or the difference.
Yeah. If I may just add a point, kind of a thought that I just had. Is it that women would like to be safer in this approach? I don't know if that's the right term. I don't want to offend anyone. It's about the risk appetite, probably. And please, I mean, add your points or correct me if I'm wrong here. It's about how much risk we're willing to take, how much risk we're willing to take with our stakeholders, like being in a conference room and being wrong on something, or being told that, maybe you could have added two more points to this, and next time let's make sure that it's more thorough.
Okay. Before I get to the next section, anyone wants to add anything to that comment from Sana?
No, I mean, that is a valid point as well. I mean, we do have a fear of failure. I mean, as such, especially when it is presenting to a larger audience, we want to be as. I mean, we would rather go only when we think that we are thorough, and we do fear being ticked off, right? So I think that affects, I think, us women more than probably, I don't know, men as well. So that risk appetite definitely is something that can be encouraged, and that's where, I go back to schools and say that, where we encourage more and more girls to present, public speaking, and remove the fear of failure in them. And for me, this is very important, because you see, I mean, as I said, we learn from what we have done, what some mistakes that we've made, but I think the future, we have to ensure that at least they learn from what our mistakes and don't commit. I mean, they'll commit new ones, but let them be new ones and not the same as ours. So.
Okay. And I think, Kakul, you want to say something?
No, I think I couldn't agree more with Sana and Vijaya on this point. And I think this is also kind of stitching back to this earlier bit where I said that, again, at least this is from my experience, that men will typically walk the floor with every small success that do, and women will wait for it to be completely built up before they talk about it, right? And that's where I encourage, that, even if you have the small success, right, talk about it, make sure that you've been heard in the forums, right? And I think it is probably, stitching back to what these guys said, that, that's a fear of failure. We've not done it to the fullest, right? Do we wait for perfection before you present?
Okay, brilliant. I must say one thing, that with so many people watching, and I've got so many questions at hands and they're coming in, I'm seeing that LinkedIn is a bit low today. So all the guys who are watching on LinkedIn, guys, this is your opportunity to ask questions. So please put those questions in the comment section. And please don't let me down, LinkedIn, because I want to see questions from LinkedIn too. Anyways, let's get to the last section, second last section, that is the success stories. So, and this can be a success story where you were involved or you weren't involved, doesn't matter. As you see in the market, you may want to name the company, you may not want to name the company, it's all on to you. So tell us a success story that you have seen, which has had in data science, which has had a huge impact and made a difference. Because I think my personal opinion is that if there are data success stories we can talk about, that particular profession can do very well, because that is what is talked about. So one or two success stories, depending upon you, how many success stories you want to share. Please feel free to share the success story, whether you were involved in it or not. So I will start with Vijay this time.
All right. Okay. There are multiple, across my career, I've worked with multiple clients. There are a lot of analysis that I've delivered to them. So therefore, there are lots, success stories abound. I mean, we have case studies and case studies that we built on that, right? But one recent success that I would like to point, and again, this is more from a success of data science as such, and not really of of only what I have done or my organization did. So in that respect, I would say that a typical problem, and again, I would go back to my field because I have largely worked with CPG clients, and and a lot of work that we do in the analytics space with the CPG clients are in the sales and marketing, supply chain area. So now, one key thing that, and a lot of focus nowadays has come in the sales execution. Marketing was something that a lot of effort has already been put in from a data science perspective, and I would say those would count and my early successes, I would say. But in the recent time, what I've seen, one major factor that we would always see is, uh, we would know the sales, for example, the way the goods have been kept, or the products have been placed in the stores, and at the end of the month, you will get a report from a syndicated, retail measurement, which will tell you that hey, you've lost share versus competition, and the insight is that this was because your distribution was not correct, and etc. Your ACV was down. It's those are the terms that we use. So this is the kind of insight that you give at the end of it. But the point is that is still reactive. I mean, at the end of the month that you've lost. Now, how can we make it more proactive? And that is where the change and the shift has to happen. That was also data science, where you do give an insight, where you analyze and say, this is the reason, these are the drivers for actually your market share, and you need to be doing all this, and this is how it impacts, and But the recent thing where I believe it is become better is do a proactive analysis. I mean, the thing is, if I get on a daily basis, I mean, as a category manager or a brand manager or as a retail field representatives, I cannot be going to every single store every day. See, a large part what happens is you actually have some discussion with the retail trade partner, and then they say, this is what you have to keep, and this is the end shelf, and but fine, but you don't see the execution actually happening the way it is. And in many cases, you can't be checking on a daily basis. So what can we do from a data science or technology perspective to enable that? And that is where the recent success is, how can we do, just click images and send, right? And then analyze those images and use that to actually give them a daily guidance that, look, there's something wrong there in this store of your retail partner. I think you need to go and check that, because you wanted XYZ, but you don't, but actually the reality in situation is you don't have that. So you just go and you selectively go and impact that. So that ways you ensure that your product placement, or the way you wanted, your pricing, the way you wanted to be on the top shelf or the middle shelf, or whichever is that you negotiated with the retail partner is, and the assortment mix that you wanted is actually followed completely. Now, I think that is a great way, where today with computer vision and analysis, we are able to help our businesses better to take proactive actions, to take corrective actions, so that at the end of the month they don't get a report card. They are able to do something to course correct on a daily basis. So I think that is one story that I want to share. I think I would let Kakul and Sana share their other stories, because mine was a little long.
Kakul?
Sorry, just took a few seconds to go and you unmute. I have two stories, and I think one story is more from a business impact perspective. The second was more a struggle from a negotiation and a convincing perspective, right? This was for one of our clients, and the struggle over there was convincing, and that's where, when I started in the beginning, I said the top-down support which is required in the analytics world is very, very important to drive adoption, which wasn't there in this case. The client had basically got us as the service provider to validate the hypothesis, right? And I think the team was basically struggling so as to show some desired results, and they thought, let's bring in an outside vendor, and they will probably give the insights in the same way, and everything will be kind of closed. Now, when we stepped in, we obviously gave insights which were quite contrary to what they were expecting. So this client, they had a portfolio of SKUs. SKUs are stock keeping units, 100 ml, 200 ml, or whatever, right? And they wanted to understand how do they split up the trade promotion budgets. Now, trade promotion optimization models are industrialized solutions, right? And I'm not going to get into details of what we did over there, right? But what came out of it was contradicting their traditional belief. They were investing heavily, about 80% of the trade promotion budgets, what they thought was the hero SKU, right? And they were pushing all the money over there. We came and said, this doesn't deserve the lion's share. You probably have to be splitting and probably just giving about 20-30%, because this is being driven by the brand's equity. Consumers are going to buy irrespective, right? What you're forgetting is the other packs. And I think the initial struggle was very difficult. Also to do with the fact that I was Bangalore based, and a lot of times I realized that these discussions don't happen very well when you're trying to basically pick up the phone, and even if it's on a video, you're not able to convince very well. So I decided that let's have like a week-long workshop and go back and meet the client and spend time with them and basically talk about exactly what the underlying reality is. And we picked up a lot of research material, right? And from there we just like painted this picture in a very, very simple and intuitive way for them. Very simple. We said, let's go back to your market, and you have about average household of about 2.5 age, right? On the higher side, let's say two people are drinking your beverage. It's an alcohol beverage that I'm talking about, right? Which is on the higher side. Every individual consumes not more than about 6 bottles per week. And this is again coming from statistical research that we have. Typical household is making about 1.5 shopping trips per week. And this is a category that you typically buy along with your grocery shopping, which means that on an average for every shopping trip, you will not buy more than 7 bottles. Now, linking this back to your Hero SKU, Hero SKU was a 7-pack. That will automatically get sold because of the equity, the brand loyalty that you have. What you need to be pushing forward is your 12-pack. How are they going to buy it? Because you give differential pricing, differential discounts, right? Now, just think like it's a very simple, intuitive thing, right? But to convince the negotiations, right? The amount of convincing, how we started basically right from the CMO and up, right? We realized that it's not working out if we were to talk with the finance team, the reporting team who are doing the budgeting. So it was a very interesting story from that standpoint. The numbers, the ROI, the impact for much later, right? That's where the econometric models come into play. But this whole simple, intuitive bit, which had to be accepted by the teams over there. So that was one story. I think the second one, and that's probably a little bit about how are you, creating this plug and play self-service solution. So this was for our hospitality giant, and they were basically looking at reducing lockouts in their hotel chain. Now, this particular hotel chain did not really have the problem of occupancy rate, like unlike the other hotel chains. But the next problem was how do we further reduce the lockdowns? On an average, people were coming and staying there for about 3 to 5 nights. If you have a 1 night or a 2-nighter blockouts in between, that is very difficult to fill because you don't get bookings for it. We're looking at kind of reducing it. And then you also have a lot of other constraints or variables in place that people are saying we're coming in groups, we want our rooms together, we want connected rooms, there are different rooms for handicaps, no smoking rooms or whatever. And then we built an optimization model to reduce these lockout cases. And we didn't just stop at that, and that's where the adoption comes into play. These were industrialized, they were built into the system. So our team over here would kind of work at looking at updating it by 5 p.m. India time, right? So that they get in their enterprise structure and their tools and everything. So when the person starts looking at their lockout or their room allocation strategy at 7 o'clock in the morning their time, this is already plugged in, optimized, and the result is being thrown out. And then they can share it back with their other partner vendors who basically would also have these room availability to be shown. So it could be, TripAdvisor or wherever, right? So those kind of, imagine real-time publication of the room availability. So that I would say is, success story of not just building a model, but also bringing it to life and giving that enterprise-wide flavor to it.
When both of you were saying, I remember 2 stories, but I will share that with after we get Sana to share her success story. Sana, anything you want to share?
Yeah, sure, I would, and thank you. Those two stories are quite inspiring, Vijay and Kakul. Uh, I would like to talk about 2020. This year has been unique. We are facing challenges that probably we hadn't thought of in a long time. Let me just highlight one story which has been a biggest success story. The team that I work with, and this is a team of all leading ladies from where I work, from my workspace. It's quite inspiring, and so we've been working on organizational strategy and what the outlook would be for 2020 and the next couple of years. Traditionally, this would follow certain concepts, it would follow certain trends, which is not the case this year. Everything's off the table. You have no idea what's going to happen, how things would shape up, what the recovery looks like, what is the new normal that we'd like to define. uh, There's been a lot of research, a lot of forecast and statistics that's gone into this project. We've covered phase one of it, which was very well received. Of course, people do have their own feedback, and we'll try and factor in with external research what we see, what's happening in our own supply chain, how the markets are responding to the recent COVID-19 circumstances, and give them, let's say, a recovery period. So for instance, I'll just take one example. There are CT scans right now. If CT scans have gone down considerably in the last 6 months because no one's going to the hospitals for their regular checkups,
Yeah.
uh, do we see that coming up? Is that coming back? And if it's not, then when is it coming back? Because that's the biggest question. So we're trying to answer some of these questions. We're in phase two right now, and again, as I said, it's a very inspiring group that I work with. These are women in data science and statistics, and a very supporting group of business leaders who are quite approachable, who understand what we're trying to convey, and hence design organizational strategy based on the results that we share with them. So, for instance, CT is expected to recover early next year. So, if my scans and my patients come back to the hospitals by Jan 2021, I can only sell off my equipment by, let's say, a 3 month or a 6 month lag after that, because that's when the requirements would start coming back in. I just take one more minute, a small project I'd like to talk about. This is not related to my core work, but it's related to deploying lean and adopting lean in organizations and processes that we are a part of, which is not exactly manufacturing. I mean, ours are more processes, data science, and models. Uh, there is a rigor in the organization, and I'd say this goes more with when there's a support coming in from your leaders. We've been trying to approach lean and adopt lean in the processes and the work that we do, more so in the regular work that we do, wherein there can be efficiencies that can be brought in. Recently, actually last week, we went live with a lean solution to answer to problems as to uh, where are 80% of our problems coming from, what are those few key critical areas, and this was based on a Six Sigma tool called Pareto charts. And
Mhm.
then how can we form it into an A3 form root cause analysis, problem solving reports, which would be drilled down to any level, which could factor in any of our entire processes from business, which, let's say, supply chain to demand planning to IB sockets. How can we answer these problems? And this has been deployed, and it's been really good success.
Okay. Now, while you guys were sharing your stories, this reminded me of one story long time ago. I think it was 97. You remember there was a company called TouchTel in India. So that was an offshoot
Yeah,
of
I do
Airtel,
remember.
and they
Yes.
started doing a land phone. So I met this gentleman who was the CIO, and there weren't any analytics at that time. There was like, what is analytics was the question. So I met him and we took some data and did some analysis. And we came back and we found out that there were lots of customers who on month were spending $2,000, 2,000 rupees, sorry, on their phone calls every month. So we came up and said, why don't you do an unlimited call offer for people who are spending more than 1,900 rupees? And we did that. You know what it did? It made a huge change in the perception. So imagine someone I know is not going to spend more than 2,000 rupees. Now for 2,500 rupees, he's going to get an unlimited plan. So what I've done is suddenly from them spending 1,900, they've now started spending 2,500 rupees every month. And of course, they will not spend anything more than 1,900 because that's what we've seen. They don't, maximum they spend is 1,900 to 2,000 rupees. So these are the kind of things that make a huge difference. And that reminded me because you were talking about pricing, Kakul, and that is where it is a huge differentiator for organizations to actually understand. But what it does for the individual is the peace of mind. Because, and why were people buying that plan? Because they thought, oh, now I don't have to pay anything more than 2,500 rupees. And because they weren't, a human being doesn't do a quick analysis of last 1 year, how much have I spent every month? No, you have a feeling that you're spending 2,000 rupees every month. Sometimes you spend 1,900, sometimes you spend 2,000. But now I'm telling you to spend 2,500. And they were so happy to do that. And suddenly that was one of the best campaigns they ever ran. So it was, so this is exactly what came to mind when I was talking about. Now, where do you see this all going in the next 5 years? Now, we're talking about data science for last 1 hour. And I want to know from your perspective, how is it going to go? How is it going to become even better as we go forward in next 5 years? So what is your perspective on it? And I will start with Sana this time because you were last time.
Yeah, thanks, Shelley. I see tremendous energy in the field, and I see tremendous energy in the work that we do. We're always solving newer problems. We are looking at newer parameters and newer perspective. So, what more can we add? How can I help this part of my business? How can I help another part of my business? Things maybe which we hadn't looked at previously. So, from operations, from data science and modeling perspective, it's going to break barriers, it's going to reach newer levels. From a business leader's perspective, a point that I have been probably making all along, uh, we do see more acceptance, we do see more consumption and growing respect for data science and statistical models that we come up with. uh, I feel that's going to improve. I feel there's going to be more acceptance and more reliability, and people would look forward to what more can we predict in terms of business.
Okay. Vijaya, what do you think?
Yeah, I think tech is going to revolutionize. I mean, I think I would say data science is going to move away just from being business oriented to something that a common man uses. Like, we all use Google Maps now, every single person, right? From the rickshaw wala to the cab and everybody, right? So, I mean, it's all data science at the end of the day. I mean, and I remember just 3-4 years ago when Google Map was coming in and everybody's saying, hey, India, we will not be able to use. We have so many things, so many, whatever you say, and then you find there's a dead end, and but it's working fabulously well. And they said auto drivers will never use it. They will only follow what they know and, things like that. But they are now using. So I see that, data science is going to move away from being only the ivory towers of a siloed organization doing it or doing it for business. It is going to become something which is something all of us are going to be using. You'll be amazed. I mean, I've been sitting with some of the freshers who have hired, the kind of intelligence they use in buying, whether it is they buying from any food platform, right? They just know which offer to use, what to use, this, that, and all, so much of analysis which goes there, and they practically are eating for free, That is the smartness that I'm going to see. Yeah, I mean, I was amazed, and they said, okay, if I take the offer from this one and I take the offer from that one, practically I'm eating for free the whole month. That is the so that kind of we'll be using data science in our day-to-day decision making, and I see that happening very easily in the next 5 to 10 years. And if I look at my son, I mean, he's very smart too. I mean, the way he analyzes, especially with the online platform, he's able to do so much of analysis. And I wonder, look, I am doing it as I'm being paid for it, and this is the guy who's using it for his own decision making. And then I had to rethink, how many of my decisions am I making using data science? So I think that's what is going to happen.
Okay, Kakul, what do you think?
Yeah, completely agree with you, Vijay. And that's where I think these machines have to be smarter to outdo these humans, right? So who are eating for free? How do the machines become smarter, right? So you're absolutely right. I think we are using so much of data in a decision making, we don't realize it. And hence the future of analytics needs to be even more powerful and much more ahead of the way a human is being thinking. And that's where I say that, there are 3-4 trends that come to my mind in terms of what is going to shape the future. One, I think I've called it out previously also, is the self-servicing, the plug and play, and this entire nature of having embedded analytics, right? And everything on the cloud, right? So that you have something which is in a continuous automated sort of a mode, which is being running, and then you're thinking ahead in terms of improving it versus kind of spending your effort on the usual maintenance. The second one is the privacy and yet the personalization. It's like literally two ends of the sword, right? So I do want to make it as personalized as much for you, right? But I want to be sure that I'm not crossing privacy boundaries. You have customer 360-degree coming into play. You have identity graph models and everything, right? But you really have to be extremely careful. And that is also an emerging field. You're bringing in as part of your data scientist ecosystem, legal experts and people who are very cautious about where data privacy violation is going to be hit, and where is it when you cross, and what kind of structures that you create around it. And the third one is the rise of this entire unstructured data. I think structured data we have enough, and we have kind of been able to control and manage it. A lot of text, I think we already have an understanding. When text analytics started about 5-10 years back, and we were doing text extraction for the first time, there was a whole question: this cannot be done. The accuracy is bad. And we've come a long way from there, not only in terms of topic mining, I think, which I would say is fairly accurate right now, to even the sentiment analysis. We're trying to kind of link phrases. Now we're talking about conversational analytics. I know video has gone through a lot of questions about privacy and all that, but I'm sure they will figure out other forms of unstructured data analysis to kind of be able to use it. So yeah, I think these are the 3-4 different trends which are kind of going to shape up the future. And again, summarizing, we have to kind of continuously think ahead of the human to be able to deliver that ROI.
No, you're absolutely right. I think, but from my perspective, I think privacy is a myth. It was never there, and privacy never existed. It is not there either. I tell people, if you're so worried about privacy, then wear a burqa and get out of the house. Because the moment you leave your house, your privacy is breached. Because some camera will catch you and will mark you who you are, where you are, because there are CCTVs everywhere. So I don't think privacy matters. It doesn't exist. Anyways, one thing I must say during the whole show, and we've been now, what, 1 hour plus, we've had so many people watching this. It hit 100 people at one point in time. And even now, we've got more than 60 people watching. We've got 71 likes, hearts, and wows on only Facebook. So imagine that you guys are so much liked by so many people who are, and the content, I think, has been very, very, very well received. Now, let's get to the question and answers. But before that, one question which I would definitely ask every data scientist is around how can data science help in COVID-19 or to solve COVID-19 problem? And this question has to be posed to Sana first because she comes from GE Healthcare. So Sana, what do you think? How can data science help in solving COVID-19 problem?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that we've been pondering over as a team and within our organization. And it's something that applies across any boundaries. Data science is something that people are looking towards right now to understand how everything would change and how things would come back from this low. Um, I would say, okay, just let me take an example of something from my organization that we're looking at.
Mhm.
Uh, it's something as simple as scans, right? I mean, I came across an article which said, where have all the heart patients gone? Because no one's coming to the hospital. It's gone down. There's all of a sudden there's no urgency. There are no emergency cases coming up even. So what happened to these people? And there's a huge data set, good quality, that we can look at, and we can try and understand how these people are coping. There's telemedicine that's coming in. There's all the services provided at home. And then if I talk about the entire world as a whole, what's happening, what are the trends, what are the peaks, how they're coming down, second waves, business and economies opening up. So there's just no limit to how much data science can do right now. One thing that I find very interesting is, what are people watching in pandemic? What's the mood like with the things that people watch on all of the OTT platforms? How is it being received?
Okay, interesting. Vijaya, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Well, one thing I would say that, data has been used in multiple places, but I think what we don't have really is a reliable data. I think that is one thing that we are all struggling with in this COVID period. I mean, one thing of us saying, there are so many studies one sees being put out by statistical institutes of different countries saying, when will this pandemic end? I mean, that we are seeing new data coming in all the time, and that is kind of changing it's been a moving goalpost, right? We've seen the conclusions getting changed at all, junctures. But I think one thing is very clear: after all the initial optimism that we had, this would end in 3 months, in 4 months, and all that, we are seeing a realization from all of us that this probably is there for a longer haul, and there is no substitute to actually not following the hygiene and the precautions. I think that is something, and therefore, how can data help in actually enabling the precautions? I mean, how can we get more and more people to follow that? Because it's at the end of the day, it is typically how to keep yourself safe and keep the families and people around you safe. I mean, I think that is now becoming the focus of how data can help. So I mean, certain things that we've been doing through our organization for many companies, especially on the factory shop floor, we have to start manufacturing. We can't be in permanent lockdown state because the future supply has to happen. We've exhausted all the stocks that were there, right? And so therefore, how do we ensure that people who go on the shop floor are safe? So for that, we have CCTV cameras that we look at, CCTV feeds that we look at, and we say that there are issues there, or where they, and how can we do help in contact tracing and the likes. I think these are the areas where I think data is today focusing on, data science is focusing on, to enable more and more people to be safe and take precautions, so that that part of it, I mean, we at least are able to contain the spread to the extent which is possible. I think that is where I see the biggest use of data science today, to enable us to look at stemming this pandemic. But then there are other interesting things as well. So therefore, the way our buying patterns have changed. That is very interesting to see. Now we are buying big SKUs, which we never used to stock up on, because we've got a lockdown coming in. So in that ways, what gets sold is become different. The SKUs that Kakul was mentioning, I'm sure the 6-pack, 12-pack, whatever. Now we're looking probably at 24-pack, because we want to keep it. And then what is happening in terms of what we're consuming? Fresh foods versus more of foods which don't perish, which I can stock for a longer time. So certain these things have changed. So the pantry stocking has changed. That has changed, and also the way we interact. What we used to go out for. I mean, now that we can't, what do we do then? I mean, how are we entertaining ourselves? So as Sana mentioned, what we are seeing on OTT, or we are seeing on even televisions, the content has changed. And again, we're looking at some old content. I mean, we can't really have fresh content coming in all the time. So what is it that we can do to reuse the content that we have? How can we smartly reuse the advertisements that we created? Because again, we cannot really be creating new advertisements now. So these, I think it's a very smart way, I think we're looking at, of dealing with the situation. I think that is where data science again can help. So I see two big areas. One is how to keep ourselves safe and everyone is safe, and the other one is more in terms of how do we then thrive in the new normal. So that is where.
Okay, before I get to Kakul, I just observed something very, very quickly. The moment I said that we had 71 likes and love hearts on Facebook only, suddenly it spiked by 6 and we had 77 now. Now, I think we could make it 100. So, if you're watching on Facebook and you've not pressed the like button, then please do that and share it. Because suddenly I feel that we can make it 100 now. It was just 71 a few minutes ago and now it's 77. So if you haven't liked it yet, please like it so that it can be shared. On LinkedIn as well, if you haven't liked it yet, please like it so that you can, more and more people can learn from it as well. Because once you like it, it gets shared with many people as well. So guys, so Kakul, what do you think about COVID-19 and data science?
There are different ways in which analytics is already helping and can continue helping. One obviously is the manufacturing side, especially of the essential goods. The second is the healthcare, and the third one is on the content side of it, right? Because these three are really impacting our lives in all possible ways, irrespective of who we are, where we are. On the manufacturing side, I was just talking to another friend of mine. He's part of the CPG industry, and he's on the manufacturing. He's managed the assembly line right now. He said, we kind of quickly took in the pulse, and what we just said, the large size SKUs and the lesser premium variants becoming more popular right now. So they had to quickly go back and change their assembly lines in such a way and forecast also, at least in the short term, in terms of what the supply will look like, and then go back and change it in a matter of like a few days. And that itself is like a big thing in terms of how quickly you build those analytic models and were able to kind of realistically arrive at what those numbers will look like. Second is the healthcare side, and I think quite a bit has already been done around the contact tracing and the use of apps which help you identify how many people you came in touch with. We also have cities now using apps and analytics and data at the back end to identify doctors' availability, hospitals' availability, right? Of course, data is questionable, but I believe that we are kind of at a much better place versus where we were when we really started out, where we had no visibility in terms of where are the beds, what is the availability looking like. So at least a patient kind of at least has some view which hospital he should be calling into, right? Or what is the setup he should be expecting, right? When unfortunate circumstances kind of strike him. And the third one is around the content side, right? Not only around the content that we watch, but also around moderation exercise needs to be in place. There are so many fake news, and people are almost on the verge right now of panic kind of state. So these bigger content websites need to kind of hold it as part of the responsibility to be moderating what exactly is fake and how to kind of remove it from the website so as not to create confusion. That moderation exercise is also equally important.
Good stuff. So that was good info. Now let's get to the question and answers. So each one of you who've asked a question, please stick around because we will take all the questions and we will answer those. I just saw that the likes have gone to 85. It is increasing. So people are listening. So guys, if you're watching on LinkedIn, you haven't liked yet, please like and share. If you're watching on Facebook, please like and share with your audience. If you're watching on Twitter, please like and share. These guys have got some great information that they've shared through the video, and I would like more and more people to learn from them. So as you like and share and retweet or whatever you do with it, more and more people will watch it and they will get benefit out of them. So let's get to the question and answers, and let's start from the start, as they say. First one, Rachna Chitranshi Paul. Hi Rachna, how are you? She says, hi, following from Texas. So guys, there is someone who's following you from Texas. If you want to say hi.
Yeah, and she's staying very late to do that. Hello.
Yeah. Next comes Hardik Singh Thakur Moti Naroli. Long name. Hi Hardik, how are you? Thank you for being there. Soumya Sen said a lot of echo. We tried to remove it. I think we don't have it anymore. Hi Soumya, hope you enjoyed the show if you watched fully. Tapan Sarkar said nice. I thought it was NYC, but he said nice. Could be NYC as well. Anyways, Honey Cap says G1G Subcon. I don't know what that means, but hi Honey, how are you? Shivaji Nalavade says hi Shelly. Hi Shivaji, how are you? Can't see the question. Honey Caps has got some. I think some kid has taken the phone and started tapping. Okay, Ram Gopal Kancharla. Hi Ram Gopal, how are you? He says insights. All talk of insights. Specify and share a few tangible insights. Good point. Any tangible insight where you'd seen a monetary benefit?
I can go, right? Yeah, I can go on that. Sorry?
I know you've got many. Go on.
Yeah. No, and I'll probably just pick up a recent example, right? So this is for one of our teams, and we have a team of agents basically calling into leads and trying to sell them some services, right? Traditionally, and this is no different from how a lot of other organizations are also stacked up currently, these agents basically random pick up a calling list and they call from there. There is no prioritization being done over there. seems fairly intuitive, very simple. Just that power of building some sort of prioritization, analytics prioritization built into that, brought in 30% revenue uplift in just about 2 months. I'm not talking about getting new leads. I'm not talking about buying from a third-party data source. I'm not talking about enriching using any other new data source. Just looking at historical transaction patterns, 30% revenue uplift in 2 months.
Anyone else? I can share one. So I'll tell you, when I started working for this retailer, and no one wanted us, data scientists, what data, who are you, kind of stuff, right? No one wanted to have any conversation with us. We ran a little model, and this was on meat consumption. So we were offering meat to people. So we ran a campaign, and we saw 33% uplift. And that particular campaign was so successful that laid the foundation of all the other campaigns in the future, because it was very quickly we were able to do turn around and do a 33% uplift from. So the sales of meat, simply speaking, were, if they were $100 a week ago, became $133 next week. So it was a 33% uplift in meat sales, and that is the one which I'm proud of, because that's what started data science journey for me, and of course for all the others in Australia, and that was around about 12, 13 years ago. But anyways, these are the kind of things you see. If you're talking about tangible insights, hopefully, Ram Gopal, you've got a couple of tangible insights there. Well, if you want more, keep coming back to this show and you'll see more. Okay. Rachna Chitranshi Paul, and she's from the US. She said she's from Texas. Yes, Rachna. So Rachna, this question is, hi Rachna, I know you're awake very late in the night, so definitely I'm honored to take the question. What do you suggest to a young person who wants to make a career in data science? Who wants to take that? Sana, what do you think?
Yeah, thanks for listening in, Rachna. It's pretty late for you. Uh, my advice to any young person who wants to take up data science is, one thing that I feel is the most important is your interest, and it takes a lot of hard work to call yourself a data scientist. It's a very respected field, and a very unique one. So yes, your interest in what this asks for, and your hard work towards developing the acumen and the capabilities. It's something that keeps on changing. Upskilling is a part of the job, and people have to be ready to take that up.
Okay. Anyone else wants to put an advice there? Vijay?
I think it's a great decision. I mean, because I think there is a very bright future that we see for this career. So I think I would go all out to encourage this young person who wants to take up data science, because today there is so much of importance that is attached to this, and also it's so much interesting now with all the help that we have from technology. So therefore, I would definitely recommend that this is a great thing. But as I said, be curious. That is very, very important. And I'm sure children by nature are curious. So I would, I mean, this is one career that helps retain that to adulthood and forever, in fact. So I think that is a great start for you to actually look for, and forever, and look at, and then enrich yourself with knowledge of technology, coding, and the likes, because these are life skills now. And go for it. And very, very important is always look at the end goal in mind. What are you really trying to solve for? And whether it is for a business problem, or is it for a social problem, whatever is the end goal that you are trying to solve for, look at, start from there, and then trace it backwards. And I think as a young person, this is the best time for you to be in data science.
Mm-hmm. Kakul, what do you think?
Hey, thanks, Rachna, for joining this show and for staying up so late. It's really good to know that you have this kind of interest, and like Vijaya said, this is like a great field to be in, especially what the future roadmap looks like. I think if you are looking at pursuing this career and you want to kind of explore it a little bit more, I would encourage that you kind of explore portals like Kaggle and others. Kaggle have some very basic contests, right, that they have, and they have the entire solution modules as well as available, and you have coders kind of helping you in terms of how they drafted the solution. It's very encouraging to basically go on Kaggle, solve a solution, be on the leaderboard. So if that kind of encourages you from the very basic solutions, pick up the easier ones, then I think this is a career and a roadmap for you when you want to basically dive into it even more. There are a lot of other courses available across from Udemy and all, which are freely available. Explore those and then figure out, if your interest like really is over there and you want to pursue it as a career.
I usually I think almost every show I mention this. When we all started, and I think not Sana, but when I started my career, getting any data science tool, there was only one, SAS in those days, was very expensive. You could only be part of an organization to be able to use the tool itself. But today it is free. So the software is free. Everyone has a computer at home. In our days, computer at home was a big deal. I remember I had a 486 with 4 MB RAM, and I was very happy. And that costed me 50,000 rupees. If you live in India, that's around about $1,000, $1,000 Australian, or 500 US dollars, which is a lot of money, which was a lot of money then. But today, everyone has a computer at home. Ours, Python, they're all free. You can download them. The data is available everywhere. Data is everywhere. You can, and with the kind of things that they're doing, you could actually scrape websites. You could scrape pictures. You could analyze pictures. And you can do so many things, and it's all there. All you need to do is define a business problem which you think, or define a social problem which you can solve, and start. There are lots of courses available on YouTube which are free. Most of the things is free. It's just your passion and you want to do something. That is the most important aspect of it today. So I suggest that define a problem, download the software, start solving the problem, and you will learn far more than doing a course. Everyone tells me I want to do this certification and that certification. I've never in my life interviewed people and based on their certification given them a job, because that doesn't matter. You can be a certified person knowing nothing, and I don't give two hoots. Because what will matter is for people like Kakul and Vijaya is when they put them in front of a client and he's asked to do a task, whether you'll be able to do it, or not, whether you will solve a problem, whether you'll be able to solve a problem or not. I don't care whether you've got a master's or a PhD, doesn't matter. As long as you can do the job. So that is very important. You learn all of that when you start doing the job yourself. And that is absolutely very, very important. I think we've lost Vijaya. But what I can see is that we've hit number 90. So we got 10 left, 10 less on getting those 100 likes, which I thought would be a good idea. Anyway, next question is from Prabjot Singh Nair on LinkedIn. And Prabjot Singh, hi Prabjot. The first one from LinkedIn, and he says, data scientists need to be more aware of business rather than just system and coding. Absolutely true. You need to be aware of business. It is important. And coding and systems is also important, but you need to know more about business, because you could find out a very good insight and the business may turn around and say, yeah, we did that deliberately, long time ago. Yeah, the data will say that you've found something, but that was deliberate. So anyone wants to add something to that? Kakul, Vijaya, Sana?
Go ahead, Vijaya, please.
Vijaya?
Like, for example, I had one young boy. I mean, I don't want to stereotype, but the young boy suddenly, who was analyzing the data of this beauty products and came to me and said, you know what, moisturizer and cleanser, they go together. That's a great insight that I've got from market basket. I was like, okay, but you need to know the product category itself, because it sells together. So therefore, it's not a great insight when you go and tell the business guy that, because as you rightly said, it is deliberately being done. It is a part of a beauty routine. So that understanding needs to be there. I mean, you You can feel that it's a great insight from the data. Look how great correlation. You always this seems to be selling together, but it's not an aha for the business because it's a deliberate move, right? Because so I think that is very, very critical for us to know what is the business.
I ran an association, and the first output of an association was that the red pen is sold with the blue pen. Yeah, they're kept together. People pick a bunch and go. That's a good insight. But it's not a good next one. Shalab Dhingra. Hi, Shalab. How are you? You all need to work on specialization in industry-specific solutions. We encounter so many data companies who are not able to deep dive in business with the clients. Okay, and that's a comment. I think there is no question. Anyone wants to add to that comment?
I think I called out in the beginning also that, the SME perspective is extremely important, and, how you play around with your solutions needs to have a very strong domain understanding attached to it. It's very difficult for somebody from the CPG world to be able to comment and draft and architect a solution for the healthcare industry vertical. While the basic principles may be the same, I don't think so it'll be able to arrive at a form or shape where you'll be able to implement it, right, and be able to get that user experience.
Okay, next question from next comment from Keshav Thakur. Hi Keshav, he says, be Elon Musk. Of course, everyone wants to be Elon Musk. Good comment. And I think there is, and in that particular 3 words, I think there is a lot of hope and ambition. And to be honest, if you can do data science right, the chances are you can be Elon Musk. That's the only, I think that's the only profession which can make you a billionaire. And I tell that to people who are into data science, that don't think millions, think billions, because that's what data science can do to you, as long as you're passionate about it. Very well said, Keshav. Okay. Ram Gopal Chancharla says, another new normal in learning, as Vijay says. So, Vijay, that's for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Amritavalli Gayatri. Hi, Amrita. How are you? And she says, a fantastic conversation, a very basic question. Team, is data science applicable only to engineering students? Not at all. I don't think so. What do you think, girls?
No, not at all. There's no restriction on this. This is one field that's open, accepting, and encouraging for everyone. So yeah.
Vijay?
Having said that, absolutely true. While it is definitely not restricted, but having said that, many organizations have still been going. I mean, their hiring has still largely focused on engineering students then being groomed to become data science. So I think that especially this is true of the large tech companies, because that is how they've been approaching. But there are a lot of other companies, startups and things like that who are actually more open. So that is something. So therefore, that should not really stop you, Gayatri, to actually take this ahead.
Okay. Next one is an interesting one from Sundara Raman. Okay. Hi, Sundara. How are you? And he says, what about skills in maths and statistics? No one mentioned. Well, that is the core. We did mention that a few times, but it is very important. It is not the only thing, but that is very important component of becoming a data scientist. And that's why I say to people, if I tie this up to the last question, is it applicable to only engineering students? No, it is applicable to anyone who has studied maths and statistics. If you haven't studied maths and statistics and you are an engineer, you can't be a data scientist. Full stop. And so even engineers cannot be data scientists. You don't have to be an engineer. What you have to have is maths and statistics. That is the key. That's the core. You need to learn maths and statistics. One of the guys asked me this question a few months ago, that what do I do? I have not, I'm new to the field. What do I do? And I told him to go and read year 10's stats chapter number 8 in NCRT, if you're watching in India, because that's where it all started. Because what happened was, then most of the people actually skip that chapter, because in your 10th board it comes as an option, and most of the people don't read that chapter, because if it will be an option, I'll do the other question. And so the same people later down the line come in and say, I want to be a data scientist. So be sure that you're doing that right, and so it is very, very important. Sorry, anyone else wants to add anything to this?
Reminds me all the statistical concepts I've struggled with, but have gathered more knowledge around over time. So while classroom learning helps us get the basics, it's the practical knowledge when there's that moment, oh, that's where this is used. Like I studied that 10 years back. It helps.
Good stuff. Okay, next one. Shirali Shah Patel says Mitali Chaudhary. Hi Shirali, definitely will try to get Mitali onto the show if that's what you're wanting. And if you're wanting that, then if you could send me a message and tell me her details, I will get in touch with her and get her onto the show. If any one of you three know Mitali Chaudhary, please let me know, let her know to get in touch with me, and I'll get her on the show. Okay, next question from Ramesh Kadimila. Hi Ramesh, how are you? He says, data science courses made us understand concepts, but unable to bring confidence to solve the business problem in future. Please guide. Who wants to take that question?
Yeah, I think I'll take it up. So, Ramesh, this is where we were talking about bringing to life not just the data part of it, but executing it to some business problem, right? And we can possibly start off with courses which are not just academic in nature, but they really have live assignments attached to it. And like Shelly was saying, now these platforms and tools are available to you for free. A lot of these solutions and backend data is also available for free. And I'm a big propagator of Kaggle for the fact that it has business problems that industry experts have tried to solve in the past. And it is across a series of maturity levels, starting from the very basic to the very, very advanced stage kind of problems. And you will have a lot of people kind of guiding you. So I think agree with you that to understand the concepts, you have to bring in the perspective of business problems, and there are enough number of courses. We can choose the ones which have these assignments style of teaching versus academic lesson mode approach.
Okay. Anyone wants to add to this, or should I get to the next question? Okay. Next question from Sundara Raman K says, and I think this is for Sana. Six Sigma and data science goes hand in hand while solving business problems. Can someone expand? Sana?
Yes, definitely. And I think it does. I think it's sometimes or most of the times ignored. We are habitual of running processes the way they are and the way, like, I mean, it's just easy for me. I can do this with my eyes closed. However, there are many steps, many levels of efficiencies that can be brought in, that can be just discarded from the entire process. And it gives you a peace of mind as to, whatever took 10 days, it's taking a fewer amount of time, fewer people involved, and more reliability on the entire system. uh, Let me just take an example of price to quotes to price process, and we applied value stream mapping on this entire process. We understood this was a global exercise, and we understand every region, every country has a different process going on. How can we streamline that? Because people are confused as to, is this my job or is it someone else's job? This takes 3 days in USA, takes 7 days in Europe. uh, what's the best way to approach it? By the end of a rigorous 3 day session, we understand it can be streamlined. A lot of these processes can be made better. And a lot of waste, let's say 50% of the waste, can be moved out in short term. Longer term, we can apply more processes, more approaches that can simplify everything for us and go ahead with a better approach to the entire codes process. Same things can be applied to analytics and data science as well. I agree.
Okay. Quickly jump to the next question. Considering time constraint, Raja S. Hi Raja S. How are you? Says data science involves a good knowledge in statistics, understanding a problem, and most critically exceptions, and coming out with an algorithm to solve the same. Would like to know from the panelists. And what would you? Yeah, you've summed it up very well, guys. Anyone wants to add anything to it? Okay, no one wants to add anything to it. Next, from Jayasree Ramesh. Excuse me, and says, for a fresher, will certifications and self-made projects from Kaggle be considered as an equal for experience? What do you think, Kakul? You shook your head.
Yeah, like I said, I've been a strong propagator of Kaggle, but not really certifications, right? And I think Shelly, you also called out, just adding certification doesn't mean that how well skilled you are at. But the reason I believe in Kaggle is it gives you a true live working experience on it, and you have a lot of people over there to guide you and give you perspectives. And the beauty of it is there is also a section which talks about the business aspect of it, the way they do feature engineering. It is not from a data science perspective. So I think I am all for Kaggle. Certifications, pick and choose the ones that you truly believe in. Don't go just for the fact of building up a whole bunch of list and adding that to your kitty.
Okay. Next one, Ramesh Kadimila. Hi, Ramesh. How are you? On LinkedIn, he says, how can we truly understand and master the business and the problems and the solution? Anyone wants to have a go at that question?
Well, we are still learning. I mean, having been more than a decade, the mastery of it, I think, is something that is a lifelong journey. But I think with time and experience, what we really understand is, I mean, if you start with what you are trying to solve, I think that always helps. And how well you do it with the tools and techniques and etc. That is a lifelong journey that we need to understand. And how well we even define a business problem. I mean, define the problem itself. I think that itself is again comes with skill and experience. But if we are always thinking only of the hypothesis-driven approach, I think we are pretty much on the right track.
Good stuff. Next, Sundra Raman K. And this particular case study I'll talk about. Sundra, hi Sundra, how are you? And he says Britannia used data science to streamline their SKUs production based on demand in COVID-19 times and create spectacular results last quarter. Great story and application of data science in demand forecasting. I totally agree with you, Sundra. Actually, I met the CIO, it was 3 years ago, and we were talking on these lines. We were talking about market mix modeling as well. Yeah, they're doing quite a good job around data science now. So I think, yeah, that's a great story. Anyone else wants to add anything to that?
Incidentally, the example that I shared was for Britannia. So that's my friend, one of my friends who's in the manufacturing setup, and he was sharing this case with me, how they changed their SKUs, and they did this in a record period, right? Identifying the other set of SKUs.
Okay, good stuff. Then there is Sundra again. He says, when will the infection curve flatten for each location in something data science can predict, and lockdown release strategy can be planned based on that? Anyone wants to have a go at that?
I think several efforts have been made across the world. I think there are lots of organizations which are actually looking at data and predicting that. But I think what we are struggling with is the lack of quality and reliable data. I think that is one thing which is actually each time a new data comes into we come to know of a new data, then obviously the analysis changes. So at the end of the day, it is not the techniques or the analytics which is going to be. I mean, data science can be as good as how the data is, and I think that is where I think the struggle is to get that reliable data that we can really look at, which can and complete, exhaustive and reliable data, which can enable us to do the correct prediction. So data science can do that. However, I think what we really need is this exhaustive and reliable data.
I actually totally agree with you. Yeah. You know what happened when COVID actually started? I created a predictive model, and to predict the in a time series how many deaths will occur by 31st of May, and I deliberately kept India out of it. And this is an India focus session today because most of you guys, all of you are from India, including me. So I am more interested in looking at what's happening in India. And I kept India out of it. And my model was almost spot on by 31st of May. But then came post 31st of May when India started zooming in. And when India started zooming in, I said, because I cannot control that, I don't know what's true, what's right, what's wrong, I can't predict anything. And so thereafter, I stopped predicting because we do not have the right amount of, or the correct data from what we are seeing. And so that is one problem. If we could solve that problem, we could really help. I think data science could really help in that space.
And Shali, if I were to add to this, right, and that's where we say the uncontrollable factors. And the biggest uncontrollable factor in this space is the human fatigue factor. And it's so difficult to really quantify and be able to identify what will it look like. So the moment the lockdown is released, we have no idea what the fatigue factor is settling in humans and how are they going to react. They're going to come out, socialize, party. And the more populous the country is, the more difficult it is to predict that fatigue factor.
And that was the reason why I didn't put India into that, because India has a huge population, which you can't control, which you can't actually predict on the impact it could have. Okay, just one thing to say, we are only 2 less than 100 in terms of likes. So I think we can make it. And let's go to the next question. If anyone who's not liked it yet, please like it. This is for the first time ever on this show. We will have 100 likes. So let's go to the next question. Rohan Raj. Hi, Rohan. How are you? You're saying the content of FMCG advertisement has also changed. They're using words like germs, virus, immunity, protection. What do you think?
See, advertisements are always topical, right? Whatever is you're noticing now because we are looking at a pandemic situation, but it has always been topical. So, for example, if
you 100 likes.
That's great.
For example, if we're talking about the India World Cup, right? It's all you will see across the ads. We're only talking bleed blue, right? This is so ads will always be like that, because whatever is the most, what do you care about most as a consumer today? That is what you will see reflected in the ads, and that is a means of actually influencing you to be able to feel engaged with the brand and buy the brand.
Okay, good stuff. Next question, very quickly, and I'm short of time, so we'll try and wrap it up soon. Jayasree R. Vignesh says, first of all, very good session. Thank you. My question, for a fresher, will certification and self-made Kakul project will be considered as equal experience? I think it's the same question you've already answered. Let's go next. Chandan Kumar. Hi, Chandan. How are you? Saying great. Good job. Kamar Zehra. Hi, Kamar. How are you? And says, hi, Sana. You're very clear and precise. Your entire talk is very interesting. Thank you, Kamar. Aditya Garg says, hi, all. Hi, Aditya. Hi, how are you? Rohan Raj and says, hi Rohan, how are you? I've done content analysis on advertisement of FMCG products aired during COVID-19 using NVivo software. The result was quite interesting. Good stuff. Okay, if you want to share the result next time, please share the result. Rohan Raj says, is there any other way by which I can analyze content of advertisements? Anyone wants to help? Vijaya, Kakul, Sana?
You can look at multiple things. You can do text analysis, and depending on how you've been able to do that, there are multiple techniques. You can use R and Python as well for doing, in fact, Python more to actually do this. So you don't really have to depend on a proprietary software.
Yep, good stuff. And if you use Python, you can also use pictures as well to understand the way the advertisements have changed. Okay.
Correct.
I think we are just about. Aditya Garg saying, hi Aditya, how are you? Saying question to Shelly, and here it is. Yes, data science is growing vertically from technology perspective, but from SAP perspective, what exactly is vision? We are putting in lots and lots models into the processes that we've got, which is becoming automated, and intelligent automation is what it is. So the processes within the SAP environment are becoming intelligent as we speak, which has got machine learning component at the back of it. So you will see a lot of that embedded into the system itself, if that answers the question. Okay. LinkedIn user says, no name, team, I believe that data science is all about having a mindset, learning and hard work which comes along, and right attitude. Everything else is trainable. Vijaya, I remember we recruiting the initial Antweet.ai team just based on attitude, and they turned out to be an amazing data scientist. Vijaya, someone you know. I don't know the name.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I don't know the name as well, but yes, that's what we did.
Okay, good stuff. Two more questions, two more comments, and we will go. Zubuhi Rizvi, hi Zubuhi, Subuhi. So I'm not getting the name wrong. Subuhi, hi. A very interesting, Sana. It is pleasure watching you. Good stuff. Sundara Raman K, very well moderated and well presented. Thank you, Sundara. And that is all we've got. All the questions and 101 likes. You guys were amazing. Thank you very much, girls. But before you go, one question to all three of you. If you were to advise, or say something about data science in one phrase or a comment, what would you like to say? I'll take you one by one, and I'll start from Sana first.
Wow, quite a spot. I'd say it's the one thing to look for if you want one direction to look at. It's the one thing to look for, and it's going to be everywhere. So yeah, watch out for it.
Okay, Vijay.
Make better decisions with data and use that for your everyday life. I mean, for every decision that you make, for the good of the humanity. So that is data science.
Kakul.
The new know-how and continue to unlearn and learn.
Good stuff. Thank you, girls. Thank you very much for your time. I asked you for 1.5 hours, but we landed up doing 2 hours. This is how every time we do that on all the shows, it lands up that long because of the comments from the audience and all the questions that we get, and also the passion that you girls actually come into play. I request you to do one thing on the LinkedIn post. Please list 3 girls or 3 women in data science you would want to see here, and I will reach out to them and make sure that they are here and share their stories. So thank you very much for being here. It was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, and this was a great discussion.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I had a great time.
So those were the 3 women in data science from India. It was India focused, this show. So thank you very much for watching, and I'm so excited that we had 102 likes on this show across, I think, Facebook only, which is huge. I'm so happy that you guys liked the show. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in a couple of weeks' time on the Women in Data Science, but next week with another episode of AI CEO Insight series. So see you then. Bye now.